Now, we've known your dad for a long time. I've never met you. There's been some really good stories. For those who don't know, obviously, Mike's dad is Mark Chernoff, who was a radio titan, just an industry legend. And I read a story about you recently how, a lot of the things that you, deploy as a GM, you grew up around the radio and the volatility of New York baseball and all the opinions. And you've taken such an interesting road, and I'm curious for you. When did you know that you could make the transition from former college baseball player to executive? When was that exact moment? Because it's a pretty interesting ride you've been on.
Yeah, I mean, growing up around my dad in the radio industry, I had a lot of access to games. I went to baseball games, hockey games, basketball games. It was great as a kid, 12, 13, 14 years old, being able to be at some of the great New York games. I think I didn't really know what working in a front office was at the time. I was really focused on being a player, played through college. And then my junior year of college, between junior and senior years, I did an internship with the Mets. I did it in their marketing department.
Okay.
But Jim Duquette, who was the assistant GM there, gave me some projects to do on the baseball side. He knew I was interested in it, and I kind of clicked with him. It's really incredible looking back on it, the opportunities that he gave me. And I think that was kind of the moment when I realized that there's an opportunity for somebody with my background to get involved and potentially make an impact, even though, I was a 230 hitter in college and couldn't find my way onto the field in professional baseball.
You know, Mike, as I look back at what's going on in Cleveland, and BT alluded to the Cleveland Cavaliers, but you guys have been on a journey and a process. What's it like now? Obviously, you're not there. You're at the penultimate stage. But what's it like after everything that's happened this year and the emotion that has to be surrounding this team and the city and the fans of the Indians?
So for the listeners who don't know a lot about Cleveland, Cleveland has been when I got here 13 years ago, there was a real pessimism in the air. The economy wasn't doing very well. The Browns have not been good for quite a long time, and we hadn't won a championship, I think, in 58 years. So it was sort of inevitable that any time you got close, something was going to go wrong. When we saw the Cavs I guess it was in July or late June or July, win the championship here, it was a turning point for the city. I mean, it became a more optimistic place. We actually had the Republican National Convention here afterwards. And forget about your politics, it was just a good thing for the city. Mm-hmm. It brought a ton of people here and a spotlight on the city.
Yep.
We went through a 14-game win streak right after the Cavs won the championship here. So you kind of had these things feeding off of each other and optimism building in the city. And in a lot of ways, that's culminating here with a World Series bid for us. We've seen our fans really support us tremendously through the second half of the year this year. And hopefully we can carry it into, potentially a second championship for the city.
It's really amazing. Talking to Mike Chernoff with us here, the Indians GM. And I always find it very interesting here, Mike. I'm not even sure if there's a one, obvious step for you that in hindsight. But when you try to eradicate years of losing and the frustration that you just referenced there, it's delicate because you almost probably want to bite off a little more than you can. You have to do it in a systematic manner, as you know. What was your first philosophy where you said, okay, until we get to step two, step one simply must happen? What was that for you, Mike?
Well, really it starts with ownership. Our ownership group here, the Dolan family, has been incredibly loyal and long-term oriented. So we've had a lot of stability here. And I think a lot of the reasons, step one for us, a lot of the reasons why we are where we are is because of that culture that's been built up here. So you can look back to Mark Shapiro, who had been here for a long time, 24 years, and had become GM for a long time, transitioning to Chris Antonetti taking that role on, and then Chris went into the president role. You can see this kind of line of stability for 20-plus years here. That's what enabled us to have Terry Francona, our manager, have Tito want to come here and want to be a part of this. Mm-hmm. He saw something that was different than what he had witnessed in other places. He saw a group of people trying to work together and really do this together. So I think a lot of this goes back to how we built that culture. And then when Tito got inserted in 2013, that really changed things for us. He helped us transition that culture not just to their front office and the group of people we had here, but also onto the field.
Did you, Mike? Did you have
with
to
our major league team.
Did you have to sell him hard and convince him to take the job?
Not at all. No, I think he was really focused on people. He had built a relationship with Chris and Mark in 2001 when he was a special assistant, and he was looking for a place where, look, the media spotlight and pressure is not the same here as what it is in Boston or New York, and this was a more, I think, maybe welcoming spot for somebody who had been through what he had been through, accomplished what he had accomplished, where he could potentially accomplish the same things, but maybe do it in a little bit of a different way.
Yeah, you know, when you think about acquisitions, the manager doesn't often get included in one, but it was. You guys were coming off 4 consecutive sub-500 seasons, even though one of those was 80 and 82. He immediately gets you to the wild card game, which you lost, but now you start to build. Like, there's something there that's happening. And then this year, in midseason, you acquire Andrew Miller. Talk about the impact of that guy, because he's like, we talked about it last weekend. He's like a Swiss Army knife. You need him to pitch 4 innings, he pitches 4. You need him to close, he can close. You need him to set up, he does everything for you guys. But I feel like that's the culture that's been built under Francona.
Yeah, it was a really uncomfortable moment to make that trade. We're a small market team. We don't usually dive in head first like that. And we feel like we gave up tremendous talent to the Yankees. You know, there's a chance those guys come back to really haunt us. I think they will probably. But at the same time, this was a moment we felt we had to take advantage of. And Andrew is a perfect fit for our team. We had a great clubhouse culture here where guys were really team-oriented and selfless in that way. Andrew he took that to a whole new level. I mean, for a guy with his pedigree to come in here and not care when he pitched in a game is pretty special and was really contagious. It carried over into every other guy on this team and how they went about their business. So it's been amazing to see it, and, you know, it's carried into the postseason, probably been magnified even more, where he's coming in, you know, in the 5th, 6th inning of games and just shutting guys down. So it's really been tremendous to see that.
I've never seen anything like this here, Mike, especially now. It really just contradicts everything about the modern pitcher now, about pitch counts and about frequency, and it's a real selfless nature. Now, granted, it helps when you've made big money, and he has. He's not going to be a free agent, so that's not going to impact if he gets paid again. He's got some nice money coming to him here. But, you know, you have to be constructed a certain way mentally to embrace the role, given the unknown nature of when he's going to pitch. He's just a special person, I guess, is what I'm saying.
We had done a lot of digging. You know, you always do that when you're making an acquisition. We had done a lot of digging on his makeup and heard really good things. I think he's even surprised us beyond that in the type of teammate he is and the type of person that he is. Mm-hmm. Some of that is how Tito has used him, right? I mean, the manager has to be open-minded to use a pitcher in the ways that Tito has.
That's a good point.
A lot of that is on Andrew and his selfless nature, and I think he's even exceeded expectations on those things.
We're talking to Mike Chernoff here. Of course, the Indians Jam World Series Game 1 tomorrow in Cleveland. LeBron's getting his bling. The Indian fans are going to go nuts, and it's just an incredible – you throw in the Cubbies here. It's an incredible story.
Yeah, speaking of that, Mike, it's been a long time since you guys have won a World Series, 1948, I believe. But it's been even longer for the Cubs, 1908, since they were last held the trophy. So I got to ask this question because it's an outside perspective, not as a fan of either one of these teams, but it feels like, all right, team of fate versus team of fate, and something's got to give here. How do you think about it in that perspective against the opponent that you're going up against in this World Series?
I think that's a fun thing for baseball. It's an incredible storyline and narrative that people are rallying behind on both sides. For us, these are just baseball games. I mean, our team has been doing this. We've been overcoming a lot of adversity with some of the injuries that we faced. We take each game one step at a time, and I think we've tried as much as we can to just put aside the whole World Series thing, put aside the whole narrative of some of these storylines, and just focus on winning 4 more games.
Mike, you know what's amazing to me, and you reference your career at Princeton, and like you, I played college baseball, and like you, I was pretty terrible. And it's really changed the way, the scouting acumen and the way athletically the game has changed. I mean, when we were growing up, I'm a couple of years older than you, not much though, but when we were growing up, the first baseman had heavy feet. The third basemen were pretty much just mashers. Not many guys had range at third. I don't mean the Brooks Robinson and Nettles. I mean, for the most part, just an overview of the position. It was a position of hitting, of offense. But now, I mean, it just seems like every guy that plays first base came up as an outfielder because they can move, like a guy like Hosmer. Every center fielder is a shortstop formerly. The athleticism in the game, I've never seen it like it's a fast game, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean the game has evolved for sure, even just in the 13 years that I've been in it. And I think so. You can attribute that to a lot of different things, but we've seen a real kind of resurgence of some of these speed-oriented, dynamic young shortstops in the game. We have one of them in Lindor, who's really fun to watch, and I think you're seeing kind of this infusion of young, dynamic players into the game at either shortstop or center field, and in some ways that's changed the dynamic. I think you're right on that.
Would you? I'm sorry, T. I was going to say, please tell me that you're going to run on John Lester. The moment Spike hits rubber, I expect to see you guys run like a merry-go-round the entire series when he pitches.
I'm not giving up any game planning. We have our advanced meeting. We had one yesterday. We have one today. We're not giving away
Wait, do you need an advanced meeting to know that he throws over 3 times in 2 years here, Mike?
Yeah, no, you don't. Yeah, this is the Princeton grad versus the Yale grad. As I think about Theo Epstein and you, as you guys construct rosters. Now, there's a side of baseball that it is about. I saw that guy, man. I saw him mash. I saw this guy. He's an athlete. He'll figure it out. Versus, well, the numbers tell you this. Which one was more important as you guys built this team? And I think you put this in context of what Theo has done, not only in Boston, but currently here in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a blend, and we try to that's who we are as an organization. We blend those things. I think it starts with the foundation of what you see always, right? And we have tremendous scouts and coaches that are constantly not just saying this is how good this player will be, but this is where this player is now, and we can make him better as a coach. So I think it starts with the human element. At the same time, with all of the data and all of the information that's out there, we're constantly challenging ourselves to use that evidence as we make decisions, whether it's a coaching decision or a scouting decision, and how do we back it up? Because I think sometimes your eyes can fool you, or you can have some bias that you're not even aware of. So we really try to blend those two worlds together. You see it on the major league field in a person like Terry Francona as a manager, who is an unbelievable baseball person, played in the major leagues, has this unbelievable track record as a manager, and yet he's open-minded to using that evidence, and I think we try to play that out through our whole organization.
All right, from the scouting room to the training room, give us an update on Trevor Bauer, his availability likely for Game 2, but also Danny Salazar.
Yeah, both guys are doing very well. Danny Salazar threw a sim game yesterday that we were all out here watching and looked great in it. So I think, in terms of him, we have to make decisions about the roster tomorrow morning by 10 o'clock. So we'll have to see how he comes in today. But all signs are positive so far.
Nice.
Based on that outing. And then Trevor is, I think, likely to throw a bullpen today to be available for either Game 2 or Game 3. We think he should be fine. We obviously saw what happened last Monday in Toronto, but there's been a lot more time for that cut to heal. So I think we're all optimistic that both of those guys will be factors on the roster for us.
Yeah, I was counting it out this morning. I think if he goes in Game 3, he would have 10 full days to heal. So hopefully that works out for True. It's got to be killing him. We know he's competitive. Mike, before we let's go, a little fun with this. Mike Chernoff, the GM of the Indians, get ready for the World Series tomorrow. Listen, Mike, I don't care when it is. I don't care what time it is. I don't care if it's in the street. I don't care if it's outside of the stadium. I don't care if it's in the middle of the mound. At some point, I want to see Serrano. At some point, I want to see Dorn. At some point, I want to see Wild Thing rip through the bullpen doors with that music blasting. Please tell me on some level, Mike, that you're going to play to the Major League. Come on. The incredible history of that movie. Please tell me you're going to embrace it, Mike.
I'll let the marketing guys handle that one. We're focused on the baseball field. I do think it would be a fun thing for our fans, and those, the Cleveland fans have been waiting for this for a long time. That movie encapsulates a lot of those sentiments, probably.
Yeah.
So it would be a fun sentiment to play into.